Hello everyone. So in continuation with the previous lecture on diffusionism, in this lecture we'll study about two other schools of thought in diffusion. One is the German school and the other is the American school. So the German school, also known as the Kulturkreis, is another important school of thought in diffusionism, and it argues that development of culture does not take place only at a particular place like Egypt, as we have seen in our last lecture, at like Egypt, but at different places at different time, and reaches by migration in concentric circles. Migration in concentric circles, and how does this take place? So these are the various concentric circle. Say the culture develops here, then it diffuses to various places, and this is the process of diffusion. So it accounts for independent invention at different location, and it argues that culture spreads like ripple of water in concentric circles, and there is a synthesis of diffusion and evolution in this school of thought. And how does cultural development take place? So interaction of expanding concentric circles with the native culture. So here is native culture, say A, B, C, D, and this is the culture, uh, and it interacts with the native culture and leads to development of culture. Now, as we can understand, area close to center has more elements of pure culture, and it includes both the material and non-material aspect of culture, and this further led to the development of culture area or the culture American school of thought. So this is the cultural circle or cultural center, and this is the cultural area approach. Now, who were the important theorists in this? So German school, Friedrich Ratzel, Friedrich Ratzel, Leo Frobenius, and Fritz Grebner, and lastly F.W. Schmidt. So Ratzel was the founder of this school of thought. In his work Anthropology Anthropology in 1882, and then his student Leo Frobenius, he further expanded and gave the theory of culture crisis in an advanced form, and he also gave the geographical statistics concept, that is one should count the number of similarities, and he also gave the developmental criterion, that is internal changes have to be taken into account. So he built upon the theory given by Friedrich Ratzel. And then we have Fritz Grebner, who was a museum curator initially, and his book Methoder Ethnology in 1911, he gave the criterion of form and criterion on quantity. These you can study in your textbook as well. And he argued that early man invented basics of culture like language or tools, but soon found number of bands that became isolated. So one band is here, one is here, one is here, one is here. All these bands became isolated, and each of these formed their own culture, own distinctive culture, and they were the Urkulteren. I think that's how it's pronounced in German. These are the Urkulteren, whose members started out in different direction. He studied Oceania. That theory could also be studied in the textbooks. And he pointed out that all present cultures diffuse from a limited number of original culture centers. So there are limited number of original cultural centers from which these evolved, and introduced a terminology of primeval culture. So what is the primeval culture? It is the earliest culture from which diffusion occurred. And lastly, we had F. W. Schmidt. So he wrote Origin of Idea of God and Anthropological Journal, and he gave four grades of cultural circle. Four grades. These were given by Schmidt. These were primitive, primary, secondary, and tertiary. And he grouped the cultures from various parts of the world in evolutionary scheme from hunter-gatherer to horticulturalist to pastoralist, and it ended with the complex stratified complex stratified civilization. So like all these theories, the diffusion or the German school of diffusion also had its share of criticism, and first and foremost is that it could not establish any large number of cultural circles. So this was mostly a theoretical concept, and no large number of culture circles could be established in practicality, and it was criticized as being a barren methodology. So what does barren methodology mean? It does not answer why a trait was accepted or is rejected. It only explains what diffusionism is. But how a culture developed or why a trait was accepted or how something evolved, that is not answered by by the diffusion school. And similarly, it was a museum methodology. Again, a term of criticism, museum methodology, because like in a museum it only showed things like a showpiece but did not explain the cause of cultural change. Hence it was purely speculative and did not present any historical record, now defunct.